I am Joe Scorpio, and I am the acting city manager for the City of Sea-Tac. I want to say that I believe that we are encouraged and appreciative of the commissioners holding this special meeting tonight, and thank you for taking our community's issues and concerns seriously. Now, how did we get here tonight? I'd like to just identify that I think that this is largely a communication and a transparency issue. Now, those are tried and tired old words, but they really come to roost on a couple of things. The city has been working with your staff since late December, early January, and we've been asking for information, and we've been seeking that information to be included in the public documents and in the environmental documents. And amazingly enough, I heard some of those answers tonight for the first time. Things we've been asking for all year. So I don't know why we couldn't get that information and why that information couldn't have been incorporated into the environmental documents. I will not talk about the specifics of the appeal tonight, because that appeal still stands. Although I also want to encourage everyone to know that we are working closely to try to resolve that appeal and get the environmental document completed properly and to move this issue forward. But the issue remains. Communication and transparency are reasons why the city had to file the appeal. We have to get answers. We have an obligation on behalf of our community to do so. We really, seriously, would rather have been standing with the Port Commission, supporting the completion of this project in a meaningful and positive way. Didn't happen. Well, not yet. We're working on it. And that's what I want to remind you and to remind everyone. We're still working together to try to resolve some of these issues. I'm also encouraged on behalf of the city to hear the commissioners' proposals and comments tonight about dollars for mitigation. First, we have heard of them. When impacts occur, mitigation is the issue. And that's one of the issues we've been saying as a community. And not just the city, but the community has been saying since this proposal came to light. Thank you for bringing an idea forward. I hope we are able to come to some fruitful and meaningful solution with that in terms of mitigation. Tonight's special hearing, special meeting is a step forward, and we truly appreciate that opportunity and wish you will take to heart the concerns expressed by Seatac residents and our neighboring community residents as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Let's see our panel again.
I'm on the list after Joe. Michael Oxman.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Oxman.
Hi. So I'm Michael Oxman. Actually, I'm here to talk to you guys. Is this on? Great. So my message to the Port Commissioners is don't do this. Don't clear cut 3,000 trees. So before the meeting started, I walked around and did a live internet video cast where 7 of the people that are wearing badges here declined to discuss the issue on the internet. And so I also attended the first public meeting that you had where there was more staff than there were citizens. There was 8 citizens and 10 staff. And then I asked the question, so let's just go straight to my question, but I see your arborist left. About 12 years ago, the city of Tukwila was put in a quarantine zone for Asian longhorn beetle by the Washington Department of Agriculture. So people on private property had their trees cut down without their permission. So what is the context of the removal of those trees in Tukwila with the number of trees that are being proposed for removal here? And also, another person asked about a urban forest management plan for the City of Sea-Tac. So really, it's kind of the City of Sea-Tac's fault that they don't have the context that your project will fit within their overall tree management policy. So, so that money definitely should be put in one pot, go back to the drawing board, stop, and then decide what you're going to do based on what the whole forest needs. And I should tell you that these trees are all worth money. And a large tree, one lady said her tree was 122 feet tall. Those trees are usually worth about $20,000. So where is the compensation going to come from? These trees are assets. So you should be paying somebody. You should be putting this money from your own assets into a fund. If you're just going to convert your assets into sawdust, that's not good management, because you have the establishment period for your new forest. And then this business about 4-to-1 replacement ratio, that ignores the leaf area index, which is the number of leaves on a mature tree. Like say a grand fir tree has a couple million needles, and how many leaves does a dogwood tree have on? Maybe 1,000? So what happens to the particulates in exhaust is that it sticks to the leaves, and then the rain wets the leaves and washes it off, and it runs down and goes into the soil and gets taken up by decay organisms. And so these dogwood trees are not going to provide these services. So there's a lot of things about trees that, as this bell is about to go off, cutting me off, that you need to look at the value of the tree. What is it about the tree that you value? And then tell your government officials that you value that and you want that value protected. And then let them do their job based on their adherence to your values. But if you don't have an urban forest management plan for your community, and if you haven't done a tree inventory like this community hasn't, then okay, adios.
Thank you, Mr. Oxman. I'd just like to note that our arborist is in the back of the room, so we are answering questions.
He was one of the people that wouldn't talk to me earlier on camera.
Welcome.
Sorry. My name's Kim, and I live on the northwest side of the airport, and I've been there 20 years. And my property is on, just off 8th Avenue. You guys have 7 to 9 trees that you want to remove from my property. I have almost an acre. And my biggest concern is the privacy, the shade, the beauty of the trees, the noise that it, helps me with the airplanes. I mean, I moved there, I know the airplanes were there, but you take those down, and the noise is just going to be, the lady that talked earlier about talking the trees. I think that that's something that helps you guys and helps us. I can keep my trees. I still have my sanctuary beauty around there. You guys don't clear my acreage, so it just looks, I can wave to everybody when they come into the airport. And that's not the way I want to live. And, you guys have put windows in my house and we've done that, and I'm thankful for that. But I also would like you to hear that, I really, you're going to take the beauty away from my yard. And, I'm one of those people that have, 7 or 8, 100-feet trees. You take those down and you put in a 5-foot tree, it's not the same property. And, I have squirrels and woodpeckers and, everything I can eat. I go out and have my coffee, and that's my sanctuary in the morning. That's going to be gone. And, I know it means nothing to other people, but it means a lot to me. The other thing I think, too, is who's going to benefit, like he had said, too, for those trees. That's a lot of money. I have a cedar tree, that's 80 feet tall. That's worth a lot of money, not to mention the other trees. And I think if there's no other way of working with my trees, that I should be compensated for you taking those trees down. That's a lot of money. And what happens, what's our legal rights if we really don't want our trees touched? That's my property. I pay taxes, and I'm not trying to get a person to not cooperate, but I want my sanctuary piece too, to be there so I can enjoy my home. And everybody comes to my house and says, how do you deal with that airport noise? I've been here 20 years, I don't even notice it, but you take my trees away, it might be totally different. So I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Considerably, I live here in Seatac over at McMakin Heights. I don't have a proximal dog in this fight with the trees that are getting cut down, but got a bunch of comments that maybe might help some people here understand what's going on. Just quick point of note, Seatac is not alone in airports around the country that have obstructions in their flight path corridors. It's a pretty common hallmark of airports around the country, and those obstructions, are mitigated and marked on appropriate aviation charts and are dealt with on a routine basis all the time. I will state for the record that as far as I know, there are no trees that are in the airport environment that are in close proximity to any operating aircraft under normal or any conceivable survivable abnormal conditions. The charts that you guys have put together are somewhat misleading, showing aircraft flying in close proximity to trees. That doesn't happen. Can't possibly happen under any normally expected circumstance. So, maybe it might help people if you guys produce some charts that actually showed where aircraft actually do operate in relationship to some of the trees in the environment. I think that they have a hard time understanding perhaps exactly what you're talking about here. Just as a point of note, if you look at some of the obstacle departure path procedures, specifically to the south, there's a couple of charged obstructions. The tallest of those obstructions doesn't encroach more than 100 feet into your obstacle clearways, and an aircraft operating even under an engine out circumstance would be hundreds of feet above that tree. The only reason that it's counted as an obstruction is because it actually does penetrate the surfaces, but just because it penetrates the surfaces, as you well know, doesn't mean that those obstructions can't exist. So, it was kind of interesting. I had a quick conversation with a person associated with your planning, and it is kind of known that the FAA has sort of dumped some of the responsibility on the airport operators for mitigating some of the operational planning that goes on with obstructions. But these trees aren't springing up, they're not new, they're not doubling in size. The FAA is perfectly happy to have the airport operate the way it is with the trees in the particular areas that they are in right now. And I know that you guys are looking for an easy way to mitigate your responsibility for the obstructions, but they're not new obstructions, they're not obstructions that have grown substantially over the years. We're talking about mature trees that are already about as large as they're going to get. So that's about all I'll talk about on that, but I had a couple other things I want to talk about. Mature trees are probably one of the single most effective tools to mitigate noise associated with the airport, and I do have a little bit of experience with this. In our neighborhood, we lost a few trees with a road expansion, and our perceived noise from the airport is just about double. You haven't really talked much about the watershed that is sort of the headwaters of Des Moines Creek, and how removing all those trees is going to affect that wetland. I mean, that's a salmon spawning creek that goes down into Des Moines. You're going to impact with noise the people over in Burien and Normandy Park massively if you remove all those trees. I think that just about covers what I wanted to talk about. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
You can't hear me. I have a written comment as well. I don't know any of you, but the port commissioners who preceded you have a very poor track record in our communities. They're the group that told us we would have a third runway that would only be used in inclement weather. So you'll have to forgive us if we're just a little skeptical about some of the things that are proposed. I've lived in Burien for 44 years, and our neighborhood is parallel to the third runway. We never had any noise until the third runway was built, because there was a heavily wooded area along 12th Avenue that acted as a sound barrier for our neighborhoods. Was destroyed, filled in 200 feet high, and now all that noise on your big Mesa airport just rolls over into the bay. We have noise at 11 p.m., 2 a.m., 6 a.m., all day long. So how many mature trees did you cut down for the third runway that should be added to what you're doing? So, you know, here you are again wanting to take out more mature trees. My feeling is that so you can have more flights coming in to the airport with all these new track flights that you have that were not on the original plans. So I would just like to urge you to strongly think about what you're doing to our community here. What you're doing doesn't just affect people who live immediately around the airport. It affects the whole community. You take our houses, you replanted our wetlands somewhere else, and now you want to destroy something that's an integral part of our community that just can't be replaced. So I really want you to think very strongly about that. And I appreciate the fine work that's been done. The port's very good at giving slick presentations that don't always turn out the way they said they were going to turn out. And I would strongly suggest to the Seatac that you have an EIS done on this and see exactly what's going to happen here. So anyway, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next we
I
have,
several questions. It was mentioned tonight that in phase one, there's a potential for off-site mitigation. So that means to me that the 4,000 trees you're talking about being replanted probably are not going to be replanted in Seatac. The last mitigation you did a whole bunch of tree planting in Auburn. That didn't do me a bit of good. And I would like to have that the mitigation is done here where we live. The second thing is it's my understanding that most of the replacement trees will be of a dwarf species. It's my understanding that dwarf species have a shorter lifespan than a standard tree. So, let's say in 5 years, let's say all the trees are still alive. On the 6th year, they start to die. You've got no responsibility. 20 years down the road, there are no trees left. And it's not your problem. It's just a barren piece of land. I would like to see that you will maintain the trees for forever. It should be a perpetual thing. And lastly, we talked about the potential for invasives to come in. And I know you were referring to vegetation. Well, there's a great potential for invasives to come in. They're called the homeless. And the area to the north that you've already mitigated is full of homeless people. And we don't need to have a whole bunch more in a little homeless park that you provide for us. So I asked tonight, what are you doing to keep the homeless from living there? And my answer was nothing. But it'll be really good for the squirrels. Well, let's make it good for the people. Thank you.
thank you.